This video is sponsored by Squarespace. I'm back with another video for you guys, obviously. I don't know why I always start out the video this way. One of these days I will just record a friggin' intro that I can just stick to and slap at the beginning of every video, and that will most definitely make my job a lot easier at making these videos. But anyways, as you can see, these are my basic tools that I'll be using in the video. I figured I would include them here because sometimes I get asked, and the sketchbook that I'm using is still the one that I got from fellow YouTuber and artist Tricky Wagon. I will mention her in the description as I usually do, so yeah, if anybody has questions about tools, typically you can find them in my description. So yeah, I'm super excited to share the footage of this one with you guys because it's a rare occasion upon which I managed to capture most of the video footage for this single page, and it was kind of a hefty one. Pretty happy with how this one turned out. It was a lot more, I don't know, like polished. I don't know. So you will see, obviously. I'm running out of adjectives here, but yeah, so the first decision I made when I was doing the sketchbook page is that I wanted to draw bigger. And to some of you, this may not look like a particularly large drawing, but to me, it's actually quite big. I typically draw very small. It's been a problem in my life as an artist for basically my entire art career. I have a lot of trouble drawing bigger, and typically the biggest paper size that I ever use is 9x12, and even then the drawing tends to be situated in the center and there's a lot of margins around it, so it's still not a particularly large drawing. But anyways, I digress. So for this one, I wanted to go a little bit bigger because, as some of you may remember in my last video, I used screen tones, and I really wanted to use them once more because I was a little bit shocked to find out that I was very rusty, and it was a lot more difficult than I had remembered using screen tones traditionally, that is. And so one of the problems was that the drawings that I was adding the screen tones to were very small. So for this one, I decided to go bigger, and that's about the only idea that I had. I pretty quickly decided that I wanted to draw my characters Sweet and Zero, same as the last page. And other than that, I didn't really have anything in mind. So typically when I don't have anything in mind and I really don't feel like looking for ideas on Pinterest, I'm just gonna segue here for a second and say that oftentimes looking for ideas on Pinterest or any other image search platform before committing to a drawing actually makes me lose inspiration. So the first few images that I come across that could potentially be inspiring will maybe generate some ideas in my head, but the longer I look, the more confused I get about the direction that I want to go or what I want to draw, and eventually I just don't even feel like drawing at all. And it's very difficult to stop scrolling on those platforms. So in situations like this, when I really don't want to waste a bunch of time looking for inspiration, I just sit down and start doodling until I come across something that's sort of working, and that's exactly what you're looking at here. So in these scenarios, I will typically just pick the character first and then decide everything else for later. So for instance, in this drawing, I just wanted to draw my character Sweet, and then I decided to add Zero as well, which was kind of an afterthought because I failed to center the composition when I was drawing Sweet, and there was too much space to the right, and so I just decided to add Zero in there as well. And that is a very common decision-making process for me, especially when I'm doing something for fun, which is what this is. And I would highly recommend doing something like that because it actually lets you really flex your creativity muscles and see what you can come up with in the spot. It's also a really good way of practicing solving the various problems that tend to inevitably come up when you use this type of approach. So to me, that's half the fun as well. And yeah, the thing that I was going to mention. So when I use this random haphazard draw whatever comes to mind approach, I will just sketch out like a bald / naked body first because I don't even know what kind of clothes or what kind of hairstyle I want to put on the character. And then I kind of get the feel for the pose and the vibe, and eventually I manage to come up with something. And I almost never get stuck on stuff like this because I think there's something magical about the process, and while it's happening, ideas just tend to pop up in my head while it's happening. And I'm pretty sure that it's the same for any other artist that uses this method. So yeah, I don't know if I can call this doodling because the end result is pretty polished, but regardless, that was just a quick rundown of how I went about this drawing. And at some point I decided that as much as I want to draw something new or something fresh or something interesting, I just wanted to go back to the things that I personally really love drawing, and those things happen to be punk accessories, and that's kind of the first thing that came to mind. So with that, I decided to give Sweet dreadlocks. I typically never draw her with dreadlocks, but I always picture her as someone who changes her hairstyle a lot, and so this was a good opportunity to do that. And I just made up some random vest-like top and just started adding the little punk accessories little by little, and I'm pretty happy with the result. It was a lot of fun, and I just really, really like drawing details as such, and so this was very fun for me to work on. And I also kept in mind the fact that I wanted to specifically use this one screen tone pattern. I don't know if I mentioned in the last video, but I did buy quite a few patterns. Most of them are solid, but some of them are like checkered and have some sort of design. So for this one, I wanted to use the plaid looking screen tone pattern, and you will obviously see that come up later on in the video. And so for this particular sketch, since it was quite a bit bigger and I didn't really use any references, well, I did not use any references and I didn't have anything in mind, the sketch was quite messy, and it was a lot messier than usual. So I had to give it a second pass with a little bit of a darker pencil just to clarify it more and get it to a state in which I like looking at it before moving on to inking it. And so that's kind of what you saw me doing. And while I was doing that, it actually occurred to me that maybe I don't even need to ink every single thing that I draw in the sketchbook. I don't know why I tend to stick to such a strict process, but here we are, and I am about to start inking. And before I move on to that step, I just wanted to take a quick second to tell you guys about this video's sponsor, which is Squarespace. Something I really like about Squarespace is how easy it is to connect and display my Instagram feed. It's always a great idea to include fresh work on a portfolio website, and since it's not something that I want to update super regularly, a built-in Instagram feed really helps with that. It's also quick and easy to add my YouTube videos as well, and thanks to the automatic image scaling feature, everything looks very neat and presentable. Another feature I'm super excited to check out is the built-in print-on-demand service that can be connected directly to your Squarespace shop and website. I've always kind of wanted to look into this and offer more interesting products, but did not want to have my merch all over the place on different websites. The integration feature really takes care of that problem, so I'm hoping to check it out in the near future. So if you're interested in launching your own website, you can head over to squarespace.com for a free trial where you can easily and quickly set up a site. And when you're ready to launch, head over to squarespace.com/cosmicspectrumart for 10% off your first purchase. Use code CosmicSpectrumArt, and the link is in my description. And now back to the video. I want to make an effort to make this voiceover be a little less hectic. I know that some of my voiceovers can sound sort of hectic because I'll just keep talking and I'll never take a pause to just relax. I don't know why I do this, mostly because there's no script, probably. And yeah, I don't know, guys, like, I really want to script some of these videos sometimes, but I honestly just can't find the time to do that. And I also can't find the topics that I would want to talk about. So when I don't script videos, I typically will just talk about the process of whatever drawing, and hopefully that's fine. At the moment, that's pretty much the best that I can do. But just so you guys know, the reason why I don't have a whole lot of time to voice these videos is because I am working on a lot of stuff. aside from the YouTube videos that I make. And the most important thing that I'm working on right now is my comic project Gloamingvale, which I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing about because I mention it in almost every single video. And I am happy to say that I have been definitely making progress, and there will soon be a video that's dedicated to just kind of giving you an update on that project specifically. But yeah, in the meantime, back to the process of the sketchbook page. So getting back into these sketchbook pages has really helped me kind of relax and establish a better pattern for my social media activity. Social media has been something of a battleground for me over the past couple of years because it is becoming increasingly more and more difficult to keep up with. And while I'm rambling without a script, I just wanted to tell you guys that I recently watched an extremely helpful tutorial on how to manage social media by Loish in her Patreon. And honestly, that has to be the best resource for that I have ever come across, because I've watched many videos on YouTube. It might seem to you guys that I know how to manage social media because I've managed to grow a following, but the truth is that I think I just kind of stumbled into whatever following that I have on the internet by posting whenever I have something new and just, haphazardly doing things as I tend to when it comes to social media. But these days, that approach simply does not really work anymore. At least it does not work for me, because the reach has definitely been kind of dwindling, and so I want to take the whole thing more seriously because it is very important for my business and for my, I guess, art career, if I can call it that. I mean, that is what it is. So yeah, it is a business for me for sure, because art and freelancing and whatever I'm doing here, that is how I make my living. And so most of the clients that I have had over the years, and actually just everything, seems to be very connected to social media for me. And it is very important for me to keep up with it and not to completely kind of fall behind, which is sort of what I feel like has been happening for the past couple of years for me. And if any of you guys are kind of in a similar boat, I would completely recommend that one video that Loish made recently about scheduling social media posts and how she goes about it. It is very rigorous, and it's a lot of work, and I know that it's going to be hard, but I'm going to attempt to do something similar because, yeah, like I said, it's an important part of my job, and I just wanted to share that with you guys because I thought it was a super helpful resource, and something I'm not really planning to make a video on myself because, like I said, it's something that I do tend to struggle with. So yeah, I believe that you can access the video in her Patreon account. I'm not sure if it's posted anywhere else, but yeah, just wanted to mention that. So yeah, at this point, I am done with the inking stage of this page, and I'm finally moving on to the part that I was really looking forward to, which is adding the screen tones. But before I did that, I wanted to add some gray tones with a brush and diluted black ink. It's something that I really like doing, and I figured I could stand to loosen up my process just a bit. As some of you may have noticed, I do tend to just be really strict about these things for some reason. It's really difficult for me to grasp the idea of just having fun on a sketchbook page. So you get all these finished looking drawings, mostly because I just don't understand how to keep things loose. But anywho, yeah, I wanted to mix up the media just a little bit, and I will say now that I should have put more gray tones on Sweet as well as Zero, because in the last video when I was using the screen tones, I thought that the diluted black ink went pretty well on top of the screen tone paper, which it did, but for some reason this time it was a completely different result. I don't really know why. It's possible that it's because the surface area, the drawing itself is bigger, and so the areas that I was putting the ink down on the screen tone paper were bigger. But yeah, I thought last time it sort of piled or pilled, I don't know what the word is exactly, but it did not really work out. So I think it's best to put the diluted ink underneath the screen tones first, and then put the screen tone as the last step on top. So that's something that I'm just going to keep in mind going forward. And I will still continue to experiment with the screen tones. One thing that I really want to do, that I actually kind of wanted to do in this one, was to bring some color into the mix. I don't know what happened. It just did not happen. I guess I forgot, or I couldn't figure out how to introduce color into this piece. Maybe it's because I couldn't picture. I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna try to do that next time. So this one is still just a black and white drawing, but I think the results of this one are pretty good. Like, I really liked how it turned out. I think it turned out better than the last page in which I used screen tones. And making the drawing bigger definitely paid off. It was much easier to cut out the screen tone shapes, and as you can see, I even went into some pretty small details, like cutting out all the little jewelry parts, and that makes the drawing just look so much more intricate, you guys. I absolutely love the feeling of a finished drawing inside a sketchbook. There's just something so satisfying about it, you know what I mean? Like, most of the time, all my finished drawings tend to be on loose paper, and you know, I like looking at them just as much, I suppose, but I think having them all collected in a sketchbook is extra nice. And I've always wanted to have one sketchbook where every single page is nice and polished and finished, and this sketchbook has been it for me, and it's going pretty well so far. I haven't had to remove any of the pages yet. Hopefully I won't. I think I finally got to the point in my art journey where I don't have a whole lot of duds, thankfully. So yeah, that's I was pretty happy about that. And you know, I've been drawing for a very long time, and in that time I had to have drawn like a million things, and it's easy to forget that it used to be very difficult. It used to be much more difficult to draw for me than it is now. And you know, sometimes I just like to take a moment and remember that. It's always nice to measure progress and just acknowledge the fact that you are improving and getting somewhere. And that's definitely something that I felt after I finished this particular page, because I don't know, kind of made me think about how if I managed to draw something like this like 15 years ago when I was in high school, I would have been very happy. And so yeah, it's nice to just kind of take a second and acknowledge that, I suppose. But anyways, so another thing that I wanted to talk about for a bit is this scratching technique of just taking an X-Acto knife or a cutting knife, cutter, whatever, and to use the edge to scratch off the top of the screen tone stickers. I kind of used that technique as well in the last one, but as you can see, I really went all out on it for this drawing. Probably a little overboard. It was just so fun. It's such a new thing that I haven't really used. Like, it's a technique that I haven't really used before ever on paper anyways. And yeah, I'm just completely obsessed with it, as you can see. So on that note, I wanted to mention that experimenting in the sketchbook often results in unexpected results. Sorry, that was such a clunky sentence. Oh my god. Anyway, so results are often unexpected is what I was gonna say. And in this case, yeah, I totally went overboard scratching on her face. And so I had to figure out a way to still save the drawing, especially since it was in such a late stage. Like, I was basically almost done, and it would have been really annoying to like have to redo the screen tone on her face or something. So I basically had to figure out a way to make the highlights work, because clearly I just scratched away way too much right off the bat when I started working on her face. And what I ended up doing was just to kind of go overboard as much as I did in that one spot kind of everywhere, and I think that managed to even out the overall effect, and I think it looks fine in the end. And there are a lot of instances like that during the process. It's something that I don't mention because there are just so many of them, where half the process is literally just making a mistake and figuring out how to work around it, or how to just make a small change to make the mistake less noticeable and such. So that's one of the super valuable things I find out of drawing on paper, because a lot of the time digital mediums, the process just tends to go a very different way. Like, the mistakes are often still made, but it's so easy to remove any trace of it or to just redo something completely that you don't really get a chance to train yourself to really pivot and learn how to work with a mistake without having the option of removing it completely, or at least giving that a fair chance before having to resort to stronger methods like, I don't know, whiteout or white paint or something like that. So yeah, I think that's something that makes drawing on paper a lot more fun and a lot more engaging for me sometimes. And it also tends to make me finish drawings faster, I think, is actually another big part of it. So yeah, like I said, pretty happy with how this page turned out. It really has this like retro manga vibe to it, which I love, and I'm really hoping to use screen tones more going forward and hopefully introduce some color like I've been talking about but have been failing to do. So yeah, I wanted to thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you soon. Bye!